Hello, and welcome to NAVFAC Southwest Command Sponsored Training. At some point, you may have the privilege to welcome a new prospective gain to the command. In this video, we'll talk about what that means and what the implications are for you as their sponsor. Some of it will sound intuitive, but some of it may not. It is all important as we welcome the new person aboard. We form our first impressions of that person, and, as importantly, they form their own first impressions of NAVFAC Southwest. If you have any questions about the material presented, contact your command sponsor coordinators. Enjoy the video.
My name's Kendra. I'm over from Fleet and Family. Do you guys know where your Fleet and Families are located?
Yes.
I like how all over it you are. He's like, yes. Don't talk about it. All right, so I just want to make sure you guys know where your Fleet and Families are. Every base has their own here in San Diego. But of course, every base is different. As you go to wherever you are stationed, know that Fleet and Families are out there, or whatever family support is in that area. All right, now we provide this training here in San Diego, but of course, as I said, depending on where you're located, that training may look different. So we'll talk about a few things. We're going to go through a lot of stuff in this training. A little bit of background about myself. I worked at Fleet and Family for 4.5 years, all here in San Diego. I'm actually a spouse of an active duty service member as well. My husband's been active for 17 years. 15 of that we've been married. All of that we've been in San Diego. I know, crazy, right? Terrible. I wish we would have been stationed somewhere else. He did not, though, so he chose to stay here in San Diego. Choose your age, choose your fate, as I always say. So he's a FC. He controls Tomahawks. So due to that, he spent a lot of time at sea. All of that here in San Diego, as I said. So 4 different cruisers, all here in San Diego. 2 different shore duties here in San Diego. So 6 deployments, lots of underway time, lots of time hanging out, waiting for him to come home from deployment, right? Fun times. All right, so we're going to talk about sponsor training. How many of you guys had a bad sponsor experience? What did that look like? Why?
I didn't have a sponsor in my first shift.
You didn't have a sponsor? All right, what else? Is that same thing? Didn't have a sponsor? Someone else raise their hand. What did the bad sponsorship experience look like?
Bad communication. No communication.
Bad, no communication, absolutely. What else?
Not knowledgeable.
Not knowledgeable. That's a huge one. Anything else? Covers pretty much all of it, right? What about giving the wrong information?
Yep.
Yeah? It happens? All right, so we want that not to happen. What about a good sponsorship experience? What does that look like?
Everything goes smooth.
Everything goes smooth. What's everything? What are we talking about? Check-in, the transition, the whole thing, right? So when would a good sponsor initiate contact?
Before you arrive.
Before you get there, as soon as the orders are given and everything starts up, right? All right, so early. What kind of information does a good sponsor pass along?
Welcome aboard package.
Welcome aboard package, we would hope, right? And it determines, based on my needs, is what that information would be, right? What would be in that welcome aboard package?
Yes.
We would hope. But there could be at least a general welcome aboard package that goes out first, and then we would tailor from there, maybe. All right. What else?
Where are you going to live?
Information about where to live?
Schools.
Questionnaire.
Schools. A questionnaire to find out what I need to know, right? Yeah. Okay. So a bunch of stuff. So we're going to go through some of this information and talk about what the Navy wants you to do. We also want to know what your command wants you to do, and some other information too. All right, so these are the objectives. So we're going to talk about the references. So where do I find out, right? The goals of the program, what's in it for you. That slide to me is a little hokey, but we have to put it in there. All right, first steps and then your resources. And keep in mind that your resources will be different depending on where you are. We will talk about national resources, but we'll also talk about local resources too. All right, so the OPNAV, the 1740.3 Charlie, is the current OPNAV that governs this program. Anyone know when that OPNAV was written?
1740.
I like that you threw out like a way wrong date. I love it. All right, 2009. September of 2009 is when that OPNAV was written. Now you guys have a lot of stuff that you keep in your memory, so did I expect you to actually know that? No, I didn't. September of 2009. So is that a current OpNav with current information? For the Navy, maybe. But no, it's actually not. So some of the current things that you're required to do per the OpNav in order to pass an inspection are things like track and INSIPs. So as I have a new incoming sailor, my coordinator has to go into INSIPs and do all this stuff, assign me as a sponsor, and then from there I have to go into INSIPs, accept that, and then track within INSIPs when I make contact. Do you think that's in that OpNav? It was written in 2009. Do you think INSIPs was around in 2009? No, it wasn't. Do you think they've released a nav admin telling me that I have to do that? They have not. So why would they, on an inspection, be able to fail my command on whether or not I'm doing that? We don't know, but we know that they are. All right, so keep in mind that you are required to do that, even though it is not in that OpNav, and we cannot find a nav admin that governs that. But they are. I can promise you they are. All right, so keep that in mind. They are currently, supposedly, updating that OpNav. I was at a training in September where the gentleman that writes these OpNavs came in and spoke with us. He said they were in the starting processes. The starting process includes reaching out to big commands and asking them for input on these OpNavs. Once that starts, it takes 18 to 24 months to release a brand new OpNav. The Family Care Plan OpNav, which I bring that up because that was recently supposedly updated. They released a nav admin just over a year ago, about 14 months ago, to update that. We were told we would receive a new OpNav last summer. They still have not released the new OpNav. So we're looking at almost 2.5 years from when they started that process to update that OpNav. So we'll see how long it takes them to get out this new one. But it's been a little while. They supposedly started, we still have not seen any major commands here in San Diego questioned about changes for the sponsor program. So we'll see what happens. Currently, the 1740.3 Charlie is the one that governs this program. Do you have a command instruction?
Yes.
Where can you find it?
OpNav 1743 Charlie.
The OpNav? So if you have a command instruction, where would you find it?
The first one.
Your command portal. Why would it be important to know if you have a command instruction and where to find it? For verification, you're also governed by your command instruction. Absolutely. So your CO would give you more instruction as to what your CO wants to see, right? He or she would give you more instruction as to what they want to see from you. And you would have to go by that. So as this process goes on, you come into INDOC, and your new person comes into INDOC. What's one of the things at INDOC that they receive? A check-in sheet, a survey, all of these things as they go through INDOC. In most cases, commands require them to fill out a survey about the sponsorship program at the end of INDOC. The command gets feedback about their sponsorship program from that survey. Those surveys go directly to the CO. So if you're not following guidance, your name might not be on that survey, but your CO will see whether or not their sponsors are following their instruction. So you may not get your butt chewed directly, but who do you think is going to get their butt chewed for not following the command instruction? Your coordinators. Your coordinators are going to get that. So that's not something that we want to see. So making sure that we follow these instructions, that we do what we're supposed to. Because in the long run, not only is your coordinator going to get in trouble, but in the long run, you're going to get hits on your inspections. And that's not what we want to see either. So making sure that we run this program like we're supposed to, and that we're following the instructions like we're supposed to. Not always easy. All right, and then NPC. I was on there earlier. There was results released for Command Senior Chief, Command Master Chief, Chief Warrant, LDO was all released recently. It's all on there, right? The nav admins. Some of us go on there to read them. Some people go on there to read the bibs for the next test. We all know where it's at. There's a lot of other information within that website as well that we strongly encourage you to go look at. They took away the search function for that website. Kind of a pain in the butt, but there's a lot of good information on there. So do check it out and read what's on there. A lot of great stuff. All right, so what's the goal of this program? Why in the world is the sponsorship program something that the Navy wants you to do? What?
Because it hasn't been getting done, it needs to be done.
It needs to be done. But why in the first place is the sponsorship program around?
Make transitions better for everybody.
To help smooth out a transition? Yep. Big part of it.
Increases operational readiness.
You're reading my slide, right? Increases operational readiness. Absolutely. It's not exactly up there, but yeah, it does help increase operational readiness. What about for you? What does this do for you? And I know that's one of my next slides. But why in the world do you think the Navy would do this at all? Why would I need to be a sponsor? I always say there's great things out there. This is all true. All three of these things on the slide are true. It helps an incoming sailor make sure that they're ready. It improves their morale. It helps make sure that they want to stay in the Navy. All of that stuff is true. What about for me? And I know one of my slides is with them. I get it. What's in it for me is with them. But let's talk about the other side of the coin. So all these things are true. Makes it easy for a sailor. Does it make it easier for me if I'm a good sponsor?
Yeah,
How?
because then you don't have to do all that stuff on the back end.
When they get here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So once they get here, if they're not ready, if they don't have childcare set up, if they don't have a place to live, if they don't know what the heck they're going to be doing, they show up on the quarterdeck in the wrong uniform, how does that look on you as their sponsor? Does that make your job easier once they check in, or does it make it harder? Now, on the other side of the coin, if they already have childcare, if they have housing, if they're showing up ready to go and in the right uniform, knowing what INDOC's going to look at, how they're supposed to be checking in, does that make your job easier or harder?
Easier.
So what really is sponsorship program all about? Making everybody's life easier. Because if that sailor's prepared as they check in, it makes your job easier and it makes their job easier. So that's what this is really all about. How many of you guys have dealt with Move.mil? Is that an easy program to deal with?
No.
Would you have liked help with it before you stepped into that whole mess?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, right? So if you could help that sailor that's moving deal with that before they get into it, would that be helpful for them? Would it decrease their stress? What about housing here in San Diego? Is that something easy to find? Not really. Again, something that if you prevented that stress before they got here, or before they stepped into that mess, would that help them?
Yeah.
People see BAH for San Diego, and what's the first thing they think?
That's a lot.
It's a lot of money. I'm going to be living in a nice place. What's the actual answer?
2-bedroom apartment with no yard.
Exactly.
No AC, no heat.
No AC.
So making sure that people understand these things before they come into a new area. And those are the examples of Big Navy using Move.mil and in San Diego for BAH. But depending on where you live, it can be different, right? So paying attention to those things. So the more they're familiar with the command, the faster they're going to be working. We see gapped billets all the time. Do you see them at your commands? Does the Navy transfer somebody in before they transfer somebody out?
No.
No. So are you taking on more of a workload before that new sailor comes in? Sure. What's your first inclination to do when that sailor comes in? I'm sorry. Put them to work. Are they ready to be put to work, though? Some of them are. Some of them aren't. Depends on how well their sponsor has set them up. So set them up right. That's what we're talking about. Are we stopping at the sailor, though? Should we only worry about the sailor? Who else should we worry about? Absolutely. So keep in mind, worry about their family as well. So what's in it for you? We already talked about that. It makes your life easier if you do this program correctly. These other things, heck yeah, whatever. If you're going to get an award, if you're going to get a pat in the back, that's great. If you're going to get a good bullet on your eval that's going to help you promote, that's what we want as well. But really, it's about making your life a little bit easier as well. Because we know how hard it can be out there. All right, so before they get there, a welcome letter is required to be sent out per the OPNAV within how many days?
72 hours?
It's a good guess, 72 hours? 10 days. So within 10 days of command receipt of orders, you're required to send out a welcome letter. Is that easy to do?
If they're overseas, it could be harder. If they're currently deployed.
Yeah, it can be harder. All you have to do to satisfy the requirements of the OPNAV is show proof that you mailed something. That could be an email, that can be naval message, that could be regular mail. It doesn't matter how it's done, as long as you are showing proof that you sent them a welcome letter in some manner. I have commands that do naval messages. I have commands that do it via email. It's however the command wishes to do it. So as long as a welcome letter is provided in some manner to the sailor within 10 days of command receipt of orders, you're good to go. So if they're deployed and you have a valid email address for them, that could be supplied in multiple manners. That could be email and mailing them the official letter. That could be naval message. That could be however the command wants that done. So 10 business days is what the OPNAV states. Now, is it easy to find them all the time? Does everybody update their NSIPS information? No. Does everybody update their NKO stuff? No. We know that. You're doing the best you can with what you have. So again, sending it out, notating that you've sent it out, and then doing the best you can to track down the sailor from there. Do you guys ever get short fuse orders? So sailor's practically on your doorstep the minute you get the orders? Got the orders, they're reporting in 3 days? We see that occasionally, especially with LIMDU type situations. So if that's the case, again, trying to follow the guidelines as best as possible and documenting as best as possible. That's what NSIPS is there for. So a welcome aboard package, that could be digital, that could be hard copy packages. We have those in our offices. You can put them together yourselves with the commands, however you want to do that. There's tons of options available. But putting together something, especially if they're from outside of the area. If they've never been to San Diego, if they've never been to Point Loma or Coronado or wherever the heck you guys are stationed at, making sure they have that information for base housing, what the base looks like, a base map. That type of information can be really significant for a new sailor coming in. If I've never been to Naval Base Coronado and I look it up online, what am I going to see? I look for a base map of Naval Base Coronado online. What am I going to find? I'm only going to find NASNY, North Island. And I'm going to find a map that I believe is about 12 years old. It has Del Taco on board, which Del Taco hasn't been on board. I don't even remember when Del Taco was on board. I think it's been 12 years. I think. And only NASNY is what I'm going to find. I'm not going to find the amphib base. So keeping that kind of stuff in mind, making sure that you get them the right information. All right, ombudsman contact information. You guys have an ombudsman? Where do you find the ombudsman contact information? Welcome aboard package. Plan of the week, plan of the day, that type of information. That type of information should be in one of those documents. Know where to find it. If I don't know if I have an ombudsman or not, where can I find that information? Plan of the week, plan of the day. Ask somebody. Absolutely. So find out. Why would we hand out the ombudsman contact information to an incoming sailor?
Pass to family.
Pass to family. Now, did I say pass to spouse? No, I said pass to family. Why did I make that distinction?
Because the family's going to need that information as well. It could
Mom
be a
might want to call?
single sailor situation.
Absolutely. So family, because the mom might want to call. You have no idea how many times I've actually dealt with a mom of a single sailor asking questions about housing for that single sailor. I know it sounds ridiculous. but I've done it multiple times. Trying to help that sailor. Or that sailor and his wife. I had that situation last week. All right, so keep that in mind. Pass that ombudsman information, even if it is a single sailor. None of you guys have a mom that's a little too involved in your life? None of you guys just want to admit it. That's what it really is. All right. So it happens. All right. Make sure you pass that information because the ombudsman is there to help out. What they're there to do is pass along those resources. You may not know all the resources, and that's okay. So the ombudsman is there to help with that. Follow up with an email or phone call after that initial contact. How long should you wait? Let's say I mailed out that welcome aboard package. I mailed out the welcome letter. How long should I wait?
7 days.
What?
7 days.
7 days?
Mail time.
3 days?
Don't wait.
2 weeks? Don't wait. All right. It depends. Did I mail out the letter? Did I email out the letter? How did I send out that welcome letter? Did I mail it out via military mail?
You should wait 2 months then.
2 months then, right? You never know with military mail how long, bless you, how long it's going to take for something to get to somebody. So follow up in a timely manner. I tell people if they sent it out via military mail to wait about 10 days before they follow it up. If I emailed, I should wait 3 to 4 days to follow up to ask if they have any questions. Seems reasonable, right? Give it a little bit of time. Now, if I sent out military mail, how long does it take to get there? It depends. It could take the 10 days. It could take 6 months. We don't know, right? Because it might get lost. It might never get there. We're realistic. We know. So make sure that you're following up in a timely manner to check to make sure they got the material and if they have any questions. And then identify their needs. So the booklet you guys have, in I think it's like the 3rd page, there's 20 questions. Those 20 questions are general questions. Are you going to ask every sailor every question in that 20 question list?
Yes.
No, probably not. So those 20 questions, not all of them would be applicable to a single sailor. Because if I'm a single sailor, am I going to have an EFMP child?
Maybe. Okay, good.
Possibly. An exceptional family member program child? Maybe. But if I've said I'm single with no dependents,
Okay.
then you wouldn't ask me that question, right? If I already said I'm going to be living in the barracks or you already know that, then you wouldn't need to ask me about housing. So some of those questions may not be applicable. So pick and choose. The other thing I tell people all the time is if I don't know you and you send me a list of 10 questions to answer, do you think I'm going to email you back with the answers to all those 10 questions?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? Seems kind of stalkerish.
Break it down.
So I always say to break it down. Ask 2 to 3 questions, and then once you get those answers, send them back any information that they may need, and then ask a few more questions. Unless you know that person really well already, you've been stationed with them previously, then you can ask as many questions as you want, but be careful with overwhelming somebody that you barely know with a whole bunch of personal questions. All right, so be careful with that. So, but identify their needs so that you know what resources to provide them and what information to provide them. All right, so this website, Military Installations, it's a website that Military OneSource has put up. We're required to maintain this website with the help of Military OneSource. It's a requirement that the DoD has in order to get out information about each base for military dependents and military members. If you pull up this website, it looks slightly outdated. The look of it is, so people get put off a little bit by it. The content is up to date as we can get it. Let me rephrase that. So every 3 months, we are required as a family service center to update this information. So here in San Diego, we have a team of 9 of us who go in every 3 months and break up the 3 bases and try our best to go in and check every phone number, every website, and all the information within this booklet for each base to make sure it's as up-to-date and detailed as possible. Naval Base San Diego alone has about 70 to 80 pages worth of information. So it's a lot of information. Some of the information we cannot change. Each base, regardless of where it is required to have information for Department of Defense education activities. DoDEA schools. Do we have a DoDEA school in San Diego? No. DoDEA schools are only overseas. But we're required to have information in there about DoDEA schools, because that's something that the Department of Defense requires us to have in there. So keep in mind that some of the information may not be required, but we're required to have it. So it's kind of frustrating for us. But the information is as up to date as we can possibly get it. Why do I put it like that? Because I may submit a change. That does not mean that Military OneSource goes in right away and actually does that change. It might take them a couple weeks to do that change. So it's kind of a pain to update it, but we are required to do that. So every 3 months we certify it, we go in, update everything. We tell them that all of our changes that we just put in are up to date and as accurate as we can possibly make them. Each website for each base has major contacts, so major installation, unit contacts. So for Naval Base San Diego, almost every single one of our ship's quarterdeck numbers are listed. Every single one of our major units. So things like Naval Base San Diego's quarterdeck number, Swarmit, TSC. Those types of numbers are listed. As many units as we can possibly find the quarterdeck number for, we put on this website. We have 300 plus commands in San Diego, so you can imagine that it takes us a little while to call everybody's quarterdeck number and verify it, but we do our best. All right. So each base has this. It also has the contact information for the commissary, the exchange, each gas station. That type of information would be on this website. Any information about childcare, schools in the area, the school liaison officer, MWR, that type of stuff would be on this website. So it's a good contact point to give to somebody as they come into San Diego or into wherever they're going. If you're transferring, it's a good place to look up the information for the base you're going to. All right, so before they get here, we want you to make sure that you give out information for things like housing, which we talked about earlier a little bit, right? So for housing, what point of contact would you give them?
Lincoln Military Housing.
So Lincoln Military is who does all of our military housing here in San Diego. Anyone know how many housing areas we have here in San Diego?
25.
72.
It's closer to 40.
39.
It's like 47. I like 39. All right. It's close to 40. All right. I think it's like 47 if you count in the ones on Miramar. So we have quite a few. Only a handful of those accept pets. So if I have a dog, I'm going to more than likely be on a wait list. And that wait list will be up to 6 months, a year. It depends on how large my dog is, and it depends on my rank. So there's some things to keep in mind and some things to keep into consideration. And that is very dependent on what base you live on, of course, right? So Lincoln Military, where do they work out of? Where do I need to apply for military housing? Over by the commissary, the Housing Welcome Center. So each base has a Housing Welcome Center. Here in San Diego, we have a Metro Housing Welcome Center, and that is over on Naval Base San Diego, right beside the commissary. It has a bright green roof right there beside the commissary. So that Housing Welcome Center, not only do they take applications for military housing, they also have civilian housing specialists. So if I need to be on the wait list for military housing, I can go talk to those referral specialists, and they can help me find a place out in town. They utilize AHRN, the Automated Housing Referral Network, and they use Homes.mil to help find those listings out in town. What about bachelor housing? So let's say I'm a E3 single sailor coming into San Diego. Where am I going to live?
Barracks.
In the barracks. So how do I get into the barracks? Okay, so I fly into San Diego, right? And I'm reporting, and I have to go into the barracks. But where do I go? How do I get there? Okay, so if I'm stationed at Naval Base San Diego, where do I go?
Go to your sponsor.
I talk to my sponsor and they show me. Okay, but this is information that I should know ahead of time, or my sponsor should be what?
Where you set it up.
Helping me set it up and taking me more than likely to where the check-in is, right? Is it different for every base? So if I go to Point Loma, what's the process? 32nd Street. If I go to Coronado, what's the process? 32nd Street. Everyone's like, I don't know. So this is what I'm talking about. I want you guys to think about this and find out what the process is for each place. Is it the same? Are all your single sailors over at 32nd Street?
No.
No? All right, know that. All right, why do we have lodging up there? Why do we talk about lodging?
Family. Somebody might need a temporary spot.
Temporary spot, families, absolutely. So here in San Diego, we're very lucky. We have 2 Navy lodges. Where are they at? Coronado, out on Nasny, yep. And 32nd Street, right? All right, so those are our 2. Which one accepts pets? The one on Naval Base is the only one that accepts pets. So if I have a dog or a cat, I can only stay at Naval Base San Diego. And they only have a limited number of rooms. So we're coming into peak moving season. Here in San Diego, peak moving season goes from May to September. Navy-wide, peak moving season is actually May through July. 60% of all military moves are done May through July. But here in San Diego, they handle all pretty much of the West Coast at our personal property office. So they extend their moving season, their peak season, all the way to September. So they're pretty busy, and we stay busy here in San Diego. We also have 3 ships changing home port this summer. So we have a large moving season here in San Diego. So all the way till September. What happens in July here in San Diego?
It gets hot.
It does get warm. We get a lot of visitors. What happens downtown?
Baseball.
Second week in July is what?
Is it Comic-Con?
Comic-Con. And we have the All-Star Game this summer. I forgot about the All-Star Game coming in this summer. All right, so lots of things going on. Why do I bring that up?
Airport.
The airport's going to get crazy, of course, but there's going to be a lot of people in San Diego. So the week of Comic-Con is the second week in July. I always bring this up at these briefs. It doesn't matter where you are. Every city has this certain time of year where it's busy. The Navy Lodge is extremely full during that time. But so does every single hotel in San Diego. The average cost of a hotel room in San Diego the week of Comic-Con is over $200. It's closer to $250 a night. The average cost of a hotel room here in San Diego. And you are lucky to find a room within an hour of San Diego unless it is a motel that you do not want to stay in. So why do I bring this up?
People transfer around Comic-Con.
Because we see a lot of families come in July because it's between the school year. So we see these families come in, they wait to schedule their hotel rooms until the last minute because I can find a place at San Diego. It's huge. There's tons of hotels. I don't have to worry about it. And then they get here and they can't find a room. And they show up to the command hoping that the command can help them out. And the Navy Lodge is booked, both of them. And the NGIS, does NGIS, Navy Gateway Inns and Suites, do they allow small children to stay at the NGIS? They do not. And so then we end up with an issue. So we don't want to end up with that issue. How far in advance can you book a room at the Navy Lodge with PCS orders?
6 months.
Up to a year. Up to a year in advance with PCS orders, you can book a room at the Navy Lodge. So encourage the people coming in to book that room as far in advance as possible. The regulations with temporary lodging expense require you to stay at the Navy Lodge in order to be reimbursed. It's a requirement. If the lodge is full, they issue you a certificate of no availability, and at that time you can get reimbursed for your hotel stay out in town. If I have a pet, will they issue me a certificate of no availability?
No.
Because of my pet? They will not. They will expect you to board your pet and still stay at the Navy Lodge. People get upset about this. I've been yelled at more than once because of this. I don't know why they yell at me. It's okay. I take it. We're all good. Unfortunately, the pet doesn't have a brown ID card, so the Navy will not take that as a reason to have a certificate of no availability. All right? So keep that in mind. So Navy Lodge, Navy Gateway Inns and Suites. Anyone know how many Gateway Inns and Suites we have here in San Diego? There's one per base.
3.
So there's 3. And they have multiple locations. There's actually 4 technically because Point Loma has 2. There's one on what we used to know as the ASW base. And then there's one out on the sub base. So there's technically 2 out there. I just count them as 1, but there's technically 2. So there's technically 4. The same with Coronado, but it gets kind of ridiculous once you start breaking it down. So there's quite a few Gateway Inns and Suites. If it's a single sailor or a sailor who is married but has no children, they can stay at the Gateway Inns and Suites. Is it cheaper to stay at the Gateway Inns and Suites?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Are the Gateway Inns and Suites as nice as the Navy Lodge? In some cases, they're not. Most cases, they're not. All right. Hawaii has a very nice Gateway Inns and Suites, by what I understand, on some of the islands. Guam has a really nice one, by what I understand.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't stayed there yet. All right, and then airport transportation here in San Diego. Our USO is I believe it's either the world's largest or the second largest USO. They have a wonderful outdoor patio. Great place. The USO is amazing no matter where you are and are going to help you out. The USO here in San Diego has a shuttle that they offer at a discount to any base. So if you have a sailor that needs some help getting to a base, they can help out with that. All right? So let them know, get to the airport, USO. Anyone know, with our airport USO, if they're open 24 hours? Here in San Diego? Let's go back a step. Is our airport open 24 hours here in San Diego? It is not. No. They close at midnight. Technically, they open their counters at 5. They don't start taking planes. The planes don't start taking back off until about 6:15. So our USO is not open 24 hours here in San Diego. They have the same hours as the airport unless there is a need for them to be open. If there is a need for them to be open, they will keep their doors open. But they have to know that there's a need. So if you have a sailor that's coming in late or has to be there, they will make arrangements if need be. But they have to know. So give them a heads up. All right, so our USO at the airport is amazing. They will do everything they can to help out. They're in the, they just renovated over there at the airport for Terminal 2. They're in the stand out in front of Terminal 2 now. It's very nice. But keep in mind, any USO is going to be very accommodating of any service member that comes in. All right, so before they get here, provide a 24-hour contact number. Does that have to be your personal cell phone number? What number can that be? Quarterdeck, CDO, yes, it can be any of those numbers. Provide a 24-hour contact number, though. Why would you provide that?
Just in case.
Just in case. Absolutely. Stuff happens. They're traveling. They may have a question. If my car breaks down, and it's going to take me a couple days to fix it, but I was checking in right on the day that I was supposed to, if I don't check in on that day, what happens? I'm going to be considered UA if I don't let someone know, right? So make sure that they have a contact number to get in contact with somebody. Personal property. We talked about them already. They have an 855 number that you can call and ask questions of. That number is open from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it is one of the best ways to ask questions. They do track what questions you call to ask. So if you call them and ask them a question, they take down your information and what question you asked. So if you call later to ask the same question, they will remind you that you already called to ask that question. Yes, they do say that. So I tell people all the time, it may be easier to email to ask your question. Not only will you then have pretty much a transcript of the question you asked, but you also have the JFTR reference, the Joint Federal Travel Regulation reference. When they email you back, they will put that in the email. So it's kind of a nice way to do it. So the phone number, there's 2 call centers that man that. That's the reason it's open 12 hours, Monday through Friday, except for on federal holidays, of course. The email address, though, is manned by 2 people up in Pac Norwest. 2. So in non-peak season, it may take them only a couple hours to get back to you. During peak season, it may take them up to 2 business days to get back to you. So if it's an important question that you need an answer to right away, call. If it's something that can wait, send an email. That's how we usually work that. All right? Smog testing. Are you required to have your car smogged if you are licensed outside of the state of California?
Yes.
If you have California plates.
If you have California plates, you still are required for your California registration. Here on base in the state of California, if my car is licensed outside of the state of California, in order to keep up everything with the state of California, the Navy abides by the Clean Air Act in the state of California. So they told the state of California that they would still require service members licensed outside the state of California to get their car smogged every 2 years. So if your car is licensed outside the state of California, you still technically are required to have your car smogged every 2 years. Here in the state of California, it is different per state. I know we no longer have decals, but you technically are still required to have your car smogged every 2 years if your car has a license plate from outside of the state of California. Now, do they check that?
Nope.
They have. Occasionally I've heard of things like them checking it, but it's very rare that they do check it. Just know that if they do at times check it, I've heard of one person not being allowed to drive on base due to that, but only one person over the past, 2 years since they took away the decals. So it does occasionally happen. The other question that we get a lot of is whether or not spouses have to have a state driver's license. That is a very gray area as well. There is no federal law that makes it so that spouses don't have to have. Each state has their own regulations. So we refer people to the DMV. We do know some cities that will ticket a spouse for not having a California state driver's license because they reside in the state of California. And technically, according to state law, within 10 days of being within the state borders and living, you technically have to have a state driver's license unless you are an active duty service member. So if they really want to get pushy on it, they can, but in most cases, a cop's not going to ticket somebody. So it depends on the state, and it depends on the cop. But keep in mind, refer to the DMV. That's what we do. I'm not a specialist on that. The DMV is. So, gotta love it, right? All right, so childcare. What do you guys know about childcare here in San Diego?
Takes forever.
Takes forever and it's expensive. All right, I like those two answers because both of those answers are true. All right, so militarychildcare.com is the Navy's, the military's childcare website. They're phasing this into all bases across the globe, and it will be how you sign up for childcare at every base eventually. When they initially launched it, it was a pilot program here in San Diego, and about a year ago almost now, they said that they were going to launch it across the globe. So they said that would take about 18 months to fully phase in. So I'm not sure what places have not received it yet, but pretty much everywhere is now signing up through military childcare. So it makes it a little bit easier to sign up for childcare. We do that here in San Diego. So if you need to sign up for childcare, you sign up through that website. You can sign up for childcare as soon as you have PCS orders to San Diego. Current wait list for here in San Diego is upwards of a year, unless you are dual active duty. If you are dual active duty, it is a shorter wait time. You can sign up as soon as you have PCS orders or as soon as you have proof of positive pregnancy, or at any other time if you have children already. So, CDC wait list is pretty significant. As I said, upwards of a year, 6 months if you're dual active. The CDH, the Child Development Centers, homes, are the ones that people run out of their own home. The daycare centers that people run out of their own homes. So those are the two options through the military here in San Diego. Average cost of childcare for an infant out in town here in San Diego. Does anyone know?
Per month?
Per month. Out in town?
$1,500.
Per month is anywhere between $1,200 to $1,400 per month for an infant.
My paycheck.
That's what we're currently seeing, depending on where the child is being cared for. That's at a center very similar to the CDC. The CDC currently at their top income level is $159, I believe is what it is, per week. That's the top income level. That's where it top, highest amount that you would pay at the CDC per week, which is still less than the $1,200 per month. Per month. So,
A little bit.
just a little bit, right? Yeah. All right, so the CDC is definitely your best option. You can get on that wait list early, and we do encourage that you do. A friend of mine at work, she actually just got on the wait list a month ago, and her expected time to get into CDC is April of 17. She's a civilian, her husband's active duty. So do get on that wait list early. The YMCA does have a child care referral hotline for child care resources out in town. The next one, that USA Child Care Aware, that one is what we used to know as NACRA. So NACRA is a child care subsidy. And that's for if you have your child out in town due to a wait list for the CDC. Keep in mind the CDC wait list is probably the most extreme here in San Diego. The only place that has that extreme of a wait list that we know of is Norfolk has it's not as extreme, but it is significant by what I understand. Other places do not have that bad of a wait list. But NACRA is there to help if there is a wait list for you, or if you have before and after school care out in town due to the fact that you don't live near a military facility. So that is also there. They help subsidize care. What they do is they directly pay the provider, and then you pay the difference. So that's available as well. And then 211 is available. So 211 is a community resource organization, and they help with anything from food resources to child care to housing, pretty much anything. And they're available throughout the country. So you call and you get local resources. Pretty great organization that we refer to for lots of things. All right, so some school information that's available. Anyone heard of tutor.com? What do they do?
They tutor online.
Yeah. What do they do? Free tutoring?
Yeah, sure.
He's like, sure, yeah. All right, so it is free tutoring for military and their dependents. So pretty awesome website that the DoD has partnered with in order to offer free online tutoring for, as I said, military and their dependents. So you go online, you sign up for an account, anything from elementary school all the way through college. They can help you with online for free. So you put in your question, they find a tutor that can help you with that issue, pops up in a chat pod, and they help you work through and give you the answer. Yep. They also will proofread papers for you. So if you're working on college classes, I was taking college courses and I would upload my paper and they would help me. They would either proofread my paper with me or I could upload it and 24 hours later I could come back and download it and it would be proofread. So
They fix, like if you upload it, they fix your mistakes too.
Yeah.
And they get back to you.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. You just have to take your personal information out. So it's pretty awesome. So great website to utilize. I have a 4th grader and a high schooler, and they go online and help. They get help as well when they need it. Common Core isn't actually all that easy sometimes, so it's there to help with that too if you need it. All right, and then gradeschools.org is also available. So gradeschools.org is a website. I kind of equate it to Yelp in certain manners. Some people are like, how are you equating the two? Yelp gives you reviews on restaurants and all that kind of stuff, right? People go and they eat there and they give you a review. So greatschools.org, what it does is it gives you a review from a parent about a school. So it's that person's review about a school. What they don't do, which is similar to Yelp, is they don't actually verify that that person actually has a child that attended the school. So,
Oh, this school's great.
exactly. Or this school's horrible, and that person may not actually have a child that attends the school. So I tell people all the time, go to greatschools.org, look at the information about the school. Look at their test scores, look at the breakdown of the school, look at where it's located, look at all that information, the general information, but don't necessarily pay attention to the reviews. Call the school directly. If it's one of the schools that you're thinking about having your child attend, call the school directly, talk to them. Talk to them about having a walkthrough, talking to the principal, talking to some of the other parents that have their children attend there, and do that way, instead of paying attention to the reviews that other parents have posted. Because you can't verify that that's actually a parent that's child attends that school. So making sure that you utilize that website in a proper manner. All right, so it's a great website that's available in order to do some research, but only use it as a starting point. It's not a be-all, end-all. And then the school liaison officers. Every area has a school liaison officer, but they may share it. So some areas share a school liaison officer with a very large area. Here in San Diego, we're very lucky. We have 5 school liaison officers, but they cover all of San Diego County. San Diego County has 42 school districts. We have 5 school liaison officers for that whole area, so they get very busy. Some other areas across the country and across the globe cover very large areas. So like Rhoda, Spain's school liaison officer covers all of Europe. So that's kind of crazy, right? So keep in mind, we're very lucky, but when you go someplace else, that may not be the same case. Or if they're coming from another area, they may not be used to having a school liaison officer here. Our school liaison officers are very good about getting back to emails and phone calls, but it may not be immediate. So you may call them, and it may take them 2 days to get back, especially at the beginning of the school year. So we have 1 school liaison officer that's dedicated to covering Murphy Canyon, 1 that covers all of East County and South Bay, 1 that covers Chula Vista, and 1 that covers Point Loma and the coast. So it's kind of an odd distribution of our school liaison officers, but they are there to help. It's just getting in contact with them. And as I said, every base has one. They may just be someplace else. So get in contact with them. You can find their contact information through our MWR page. And that's the same for every school liaison officer. For any region, you can find their information on that region's MWR page. And they help with a whole wide variety of things for those schools. All right, once they get here, assist with immediate needs. Am I saying to go grocery shopping for them? No. But make sure that you show them around, let them know where that commissary is or that grocery store is. So we had a sailor who came in, brand new to the Navy, gone to boot camp, A school, drove from Chicago with his wife, the 4 days, 5 days, whatever it is to get here from Chicago, pulled in late at night into the Navy Lodge on Naval Base San Diego. The next morning they got up and decided to go to the commissary. They hung a right at a Naval Base San Diego and drove around promptly for over 2 hours looking for the commissary. They were right by the commissary. They couldn't find it. Now, a lot of people ask the question of why couldn't they find the commissary? I have no idea why they couldn't find the commissary, because if they would have looked to the left, they would have found the commissary, because it's right there. It's the second largest commissary in the world. It's huge. It's right there. Yeah, it's pretty easy. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's like, did he not have a smartphone? I don't understand. It happened. So what I tell people, though, is if his sponsor would have given him a heads up, like, hey, you're staying right beside the commissary, would have given him a little bit less grief? Possibly. Now, I just said he was in the car for 4 days or 5 days with his wife. Got in late the night before. I love my husband dearly. I've been married to him for 15 years. Dude, if I was stuck in the car with him for 5 days, I don't know that we would have even made it to Naval Base San Diego. All right? One of us would have ended up walking. So I can understand why there was a little bit of an issue. So keep that in mind. Let them know, hey, you're staying at Naval Base San Diego. The commissary is right there beside you. If I'm staying out at NASNY, where's the commissary compared to the Navy Lodge? Is it anywhere near the Navy Lodge? It's not even close. You drive by it coming onto the base, but it's like 2 miles away. You're not going to walk to it. So let them know where the nearest grocery store is. I have a 15-year-old. He's almost 6'3", and he weighs about 160 pounds. I'm not joking. So for me to go to McDonald's, how much do you think I spend on just his food alone?
$20.
Yeah, at least. So for me, like loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter goes a long way. I would want to know where the commissary is because I wouldn't want to spend $20 at McDonald's. All right, I would want to go to the grocery store. So let them know those little things when they get there. Where that nearest grocery store is, where the commissary is, whatever it may be, because it may save them. If I had an infant when I came in, would I be able to hit McDonald's and feed my infant?
No.
Or get diapers? No, right? So make sure that they know where those immediate needs can be met. Makes it easy. Meet them if possible. Do you guys all work out of the same building?
No.
You don't. So if I don't know where to go when I get here, Does that make my job easier? Does every place I check in, if I'm going to go through check-in, is that in the same building? Every stop on my check-in list? Not even close probably, right? So make sure you meet them, let them know where they're supposed to check in, and where I'm supposed to report to work. The little things, all right? Notify the command they're here. We've had issues where we've talked to sailors where they've come in on a Friday, but they don't want to check in until Monday. So then they've gotten in trouble over the weekend. They've gotten really sick over the weekend. Guess who was in the CMC's office with that new check-in come Monday? The sponsor. Because they didn't notify command that the sailor was here, but they knew. So you don't want to do that. Make sure your chain of command knows if you know that your person's here. New check-in's here, and you know about it, let your chain of command know. And then provide them with some sort of base map. All right, some information to share. The stuff we just talked about. Location of command, when they need to check in, what uniform they need to wear, where do I need to be, when do I need to be there. The picture that's up here was taken from the first 72 video. How many of you guys have seen that video? There's a newer one. I'm not going to show it to you. I could. I saw like 3 people like, oh, I'm not going to show it to you. It's on YouTube, so if you really want to watch the 12-minute video, you can look it up. All right? It was filmed here in San Diego. It is up there, but let them know. Who's your servicing PSD?
Roger.
All right, your command CPC is absolutely who you should talk to. All right? Don't send them over to PSD to tell them to get a pay issue resolved. Because what is PSD going to do for them? Get mad and send them back to your command admin. So make sure they know where to go. When is your pay going to get messed up during your time in the Navy? When you transfer. When you deploy. Those are the times that pay is going to get messed up. Those are also times in which things are going to happen with your DEERs. Your page 2. I had a guy that I did the sponsor training on Monday, and I had a guy in my sponsor training. He was like, yeah, when I transferred the last time, I had 11 kids when I checked into my next command.
Yes.
Like, I don't have 11 kids. I have 2. I had another guy in a previous one, he's like, yeah, my daughter became my wife, and my wife became my daughter. I don't know how that happened. On his DEERs. We had one guy who had 11 wives, so I had one guy that had 11 kids and one guy that had 11 wives. I don't know how things happen in your DEERs, but it happens. I like how you all land your PSD. So make sure you knew that. So file a family care plan if required. Check in with EFMP if you have a point of contact. Make sure that they're in contact with them ahead of time, as well as your coordinator for family care plan. And then update everything. You guys are the ones that are responsible for your TRICARE as well. So if my TRICARE region isn't updated and something happens to me, that falls on me. That cost. So if I go to the emergency room and TRICARE says, well, you're supposed to be over in Virginia. Why the heck are you in San Diego? You're now going to have to pay half of that cost because you're supposed to be in Virginia for the past 18 months, according to me as TRICARE. They can consider that a point of service contact, and you're responsible for half that cost. And we've seen that happen to multiple service members over the past year and a half. I don't know why, but we've seen it happen. That is not on the command, ultimately, to make sure that paperwork gets put in. It ultimately falls on you as a service member. It takes a phone call or checking it online. That phone call, unfortunately, means you could be on hold for like an hour. So check it online, all right? It's kind of crazy. Check it online. So update everything. Page 2, DEERs, TRICARE Dental, everything needs to be updated. All right, once they get here, provide them that base tour. Let them know where the things are, including where to eat. I love going out and training. I do it all the time. The favorite ones to train are the Marines because they say the most random stuff. They have boots, they'll figure it out. That's their favorite thing to say to me. They'll figure it out, and I'm like, they won't figure it out. All right. So, tell them where the things are. So they don't eat at the galley every day, or McDonald's every day, or whatever it is. Show them around. Introduce them to the command. Accompany them as much as possible through their in-processing. If there's something coming up in your schedule, don't let it be a surprise. Surprise, we're deploying in 3 days. Not cool. All right? Let them know. Multiple times I've gone out and they've been like, hey, don't unpack because we're going to be in Afghanistan in a couple days. Not fun. Don't do it. All right? And then try to keep in touch. All right, we always talk about what's available in the area because we want you guys to let them know what is available. So MWR, especially here in San Diego, is very robust due to the cost of living. So some recreational opportunities. We have our outdoor adventure center that rents a whole bunch of stuff. Keep in mind the Marine bases are right next door. So Miramar, Pendleton, the Marine Corps Recruit Depot, lots of great stuff to do through them, including catch and release ponds, paintball. You can rent a whole bunch of stuff through them. They issue boat license, lots of crazy stuff that they do through them. So keep that in mind. But beyond that, we have our MWR facilities on our Navy bases as well. So out in Coronado, they have Fiddler's Cove, which they do sailing lessons and stuff through them. How much are our theaters on our naval bases here in San Diego? Absolutely free. The bowling alleys as well at lunchtime on certain days on each base, it's Tuesdays at Naval Base, is free between 11 and 1. It's like $2 or $3 at other times, but hey, whatever. So lots of cool things to do through MWR. Each base is very different at what they offer, but they do offer lots of great things. The bottom picture, not that you can see it super great, but the bottom picture is actually Breakers Beach over on Nasny. So that's over by the Navy Lodge, and that is actually the beach bungalows that are available over there that are for rent through the Navy Lodge. By what I understand, they book pretty far out in advance, though.
Yeah, they're booked up next like 8 months right now.
Yeah. So they do book through them, though. We do have 2 Navy beaches here in San Diego, and then there's 2 more through the Marine Corps. Up on Miramar, they actually book cabins up in Big Bear. So there's lots of really cool stuff available to do through our MWR and our Marine Corps Community Services. So utilize it. That's why it's there. Each base is very different. All right, so these are our top resources. A lot of them are national resources. So the USO, how many USOs do we have in San Diego? 2. The one in the airport and the one downtown. The one downtown does a free Tuesday night dinner. They also do groceries that they give away every other Saturday. So lots of great stuff that they do through them. None of it is restricted by rank. None of it. You can be any rank and get anything from the USO. They give away tickets all the time. Lots of great stuff. And every USO does something similar. The USO in the airport, I believe they also do a barbecue every Friday. And the USO in the airport will also validate your parking if you're there to pick up a service member or somebody else. So if you're an active duty service member and you're there to pick somebody up, if you're there for under 3 hours, you can go in and they will validate your parking. So you don't have to pay for parking. Only up to 3 hours. All right? So they will do that. Lots of great stuff that they do. Some of the other emblems, of course, Fleet and Family. We're here to help you out as much as we possibly can. We do a lot of stuff. We refer to a lot of resources. That's our job. We do counseling, financial counseling, personal counseling, pretty much anything you can think of. If we don't do it, we know where to refer you to get what you need. The ASYMCA, Armed Services YMCA, we have a great branch here in San Diego. They also do counseling. They do a lot of other programs for families. They just did the father-daughter dance. I believe it was on Valentine's Day. They do a great program at Christmas for families. They give away toys to active duty service members to give to their children. They also do a lot of other things that you can volunteer at. They give away blankets to deployed service members' children with pictures of the service member on it. Lots of great things. Military One Source, available online and over the phone. They do counseling as well. You don't have to be the same place. So if you and your spouse need counseling and you are a GeoBatch, they will do Skype or telephone counseling for that couple. So pretty amazing stuff that they can do that we can't do. WIC, here in California it's run by the Red Cross, but WIC is available in every state by a different organization possibly. So it may not be the Red Cross in a different state, it may be available by somebody else. But it is there. It helps families with children under the age of 5 with food subsidy. So that can be, it's vouchers. Anyone know what they help with? Milk. eggs, cheese, bread. No, it's not bread. Cereal.
Staples.
Formula,
Beans.
The basic things. Beans, peanut butter. I don't think it's bread.
There's no bread in it.
Yeah, I didn't think so. No.
Fruit.
The basic things, right? So the things that you really need. Cereal, not cereal. They do cereal, but I already said that. Formula, those types of things. So the basic things that a family would need. So they are there to help out. They also here in San Diego did a program, and they're still doing it during the summer. They give out vouchers for fresh fruit and vegetables as well. So great things that they do. Support the Enlisted Project is a local organization that helps service members E6 and below in financial distress. So they're a great resource that's there to give financial grants. Of course, Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, they're there to help in financial situations as well. And then San Diego Mom is a local resource as well. They're a military outreach ministry, and a lot of other bases have something very similar. So they help with small furniture items, baby clothes, those types of things.
Do food drives too.
They do food drives as well, yes. So they give away food items. Do you guys have any questions about our resources? Any questions about the training in general? No? Pretty easy? All right. So these are, bottom line, do what you're supposed to do. Help a sailor. What we find is that sailors don't realize how small the Navy is until they really open their eyes and look around. I can't take my husband anywhere. He's been in the Navy for 17 years. He runs into people everywhere. So keep that in mind. Help people out, because in turn that might help you in the future. So do unto others, you want done unto you. Golden rule, right? All right, here's our locations in San Diego. We have 9 of them. We have locations across the globe as well. So if you need help with Fleet Family, reach out. We're going to be able to help you as much as we possibly can. And if we can't, we're going to refer you to where you need that help from. All right, no questions?
Nope.
All right, I'm good to go. Thank you.